thigh bones connected to the fragments of silicon.
All right, welcome to another installment of the Fragments of Silicon Daylight Interviews. Joining us once again is Maciej from Movie Games.
Yes, hello.
Hello. Right, so previously when we had him on, we got into a big discussion about the business of games and localization and, a lot of stuff around gaming, but it occurs to us that we didn't actually talk all that much about the games themselves, and we seek to do that this time around. We will endeavor to cover at least 3 games here, maybe more if time allots, but we are first going to start with, I think, Drug Dealer Simulator. And indeed, the game in question is, as it says on the tin here, it is simulating drug dealing. And I suppose the first question here is, like, what level of drug dealing are you simulating here? Like, are we talking street level dealing? Are we talking more higher up on the distribution chain?
No, you are at the lowest level. You are a street dealer. You are working in a very specific place. It's a kind of closed ghetto, let's say. It's not really described why it's going on like that. So because we had to limit the size of the city where the action takes place. So we decided to create a fictional closed area, and you are living there with all other strange people, and you are dealing drugs. So you have to buy drugs from outside and sell to your clients, to your customers. But of course, you can do some stuff with your original drugs in order to increase your profits. Maybe so you can mix drugs, you can come up with new drugs sometimes. Sometimes the results are disastrous, so you have to be very careful what you produce because it may cost your customers' life. So it's like real life. If you are too aggressive with mixing drugs with other stuff, you may ruin your clientele. So this is.
Indeed.
It seems
Yeah.
that this approach that you are a actual street dealer is something new because being a drug kingpin is usually that you are just messing with the stats and numbers, and there's no real dealing action. So you have to buy drug, you have to smuggle them, you have to avoid the police, and you have to find clients and satisfy their needs, basically.
Indeed. Well, yeah. I'm not sure if you're familiar with a game called Drug Wars.
Oh no, I don't know this game.
Well, it's a fairly old one, but it was like basically the drug version of playing the stock market simulated, but it's still like the same principle of buy low, sell high, basically.
Yeah. So like any other trade games, when you trade, I don't know, maybe steel or something. So you don't have the direct connection to the stuff you are selling and buying. But in Drug Dealer Simulator, you are working with drugs.
Right, and I suppose getting into the drugs themselves, is it a specific kind of drug? Are they real world drugs? Are they fictional drugs?
No, they are real world drugs. The developer did some research. I hope that was only technical research, not going into actual sampling of the stuff. But yeah, he learned a lot about the process of making drugs, mixing with other stuff, and possible results of such actions in order to make it somewhat realistic. This is a simulator, but let's say it's not a real life simulator. It's just a buzzword we used. We weren't actually very happy with the title, but it works. So let's say it's a simulator, but it's simplified simulator. But the part where you are making drugs and making different mixes and selling them and observing the results and how the clients are happy or not, and what those mixes, how those mixes affect their health, for example, is based on the real life data collected from various sources.
That is duly noted. Does that also affect, how do I put this, the processes themselves? Because, well, in the like say you're producing meth, that's a much more dangerous drug to actually create than say dealing with marijuana or cocaine. I mean, is that a consideration as well?
Yeah. So you have to be careful with some of the drugs because it will kill your clients. So you have to, because it is the game. You can try different approaches. You can see how dangerous this is, but it wasn't our idea for this game to be really educational to some extent. We simply show that the drugs can be fun and can be very dangerous, but I believe we don't take a firm stance like don't do drugs or do drugs. Well, you can try different approaches in the game and maybe think about this for a minute, but this is entertainment. This is a simulation. Everything is fictional. So don't do this at home. That's first advice. And then maybe don't follow everything what's happening in the game, because the life differs from the game.
Right. I mean, it is a game after all. It's if you get a fail state in this, it's just game over. In real life, it's potentially life over in a variety of fashions. Let's say. Speaking of which, so clearly drugs are the main focus here, but I'm wondering if there are other systems in place. Namely, like, do you have to deal with rivals? Do you have to deal with police? The other.
Obviously, you have to deal with other sellers. You have to deal with the police, and you can be caught. But again, this is the game, so the punishment is not very severe. You can be you can lose your stash or something like that. You can lose the drugs, but you can return to the street and do this again. So the real life is slightly different in this regard. So yeah, you have to buy the drug. You have to buy the original drugs and maybe mix it with something in order to increase your yield. You have to avoid other dealers. You have to satisfy demands of your customers. You have to avoid the police. The whole place is dangerous because it's a very specific part of the city. But at some point we decided, okay, we don't want to go too much into confrontation, because we had a lot of problems with that, because the original trailer showed some gunfights and stuff, but while working on the game we decided that this doesn't add much to the game, because the game is about dealing drugs, not killing people. So we decided to drop the idea, and we got a lot of flack for it from fans. And they still complain about, because there was shooting in the trailer. Where's the shooting in the game? We said we simply tried this, and it didn't work. It didn't add anything to the game. Besides more complexity and more situation that there's the game over, because if you start shooting at everyone, the only option is to simply kill you and force you to repeat the games, which is not fun really. And so yeah, mostly we focus on selling drugs and avoiding dangers, but we are not, we are not the danger like Walter White.
Right. I can certainly see the point of view of the fan base, especially since it was in the trailer. It is part of the actual life here, but as you noted, this isn't real life, and it sounds like it was probably for the best that that feature was cut if the implementation was lacking. That being said, in terms of the avoidance of, let's say, consequences, what are your options there? Is it just strictly, say, fleeing, or are there, like, can you bribe people, for example?
You are simply improving your situation. You are earning money. You can improve your living conditions, because you start in a very lousy apartment, and you can buy more apartment. You can change your life to some extent, but still you're in this closed ghetto or something. We wanted to keep the game small. That was the original, because this was a risky idea, first of all. And the idea came from our CEO, which is mostly a financial guy. But he said, okay, let's make the game about drug dealing. And well, we thought that this was very risky, but he insisted. So we decided, okay, we have a quite good team, people willing to do this, and keep the budget low, because it was a risky title. And we are quite fortunate to get those guys to working on the game, because they understood the idea and the constraints we had, because we would like to have this as a small game with a limited budget, because we are risking a lot. So let's make this game as good as possible with those constraints, and they did a great job. So of course the game is lacking in some departments. Let's say visually is not stellar, but the players reacted that it doesn't matter for them, because the actual gameplay is important. That you can do this, you cannot do in other games. You can really be the drug dealer and working on the street and doing really sometimes bad stuff with your drugs, and how you use them, how you earn the money. And they simply like the gameplay. They didn't care much about the visuals. Of course, we improved the visuals even after the release. We spend a lot of time still improving the game, because we understand that people like the game, a lot. Actually, it was a big surprise for us that, despite the game being about dealing drugs, there's a lot of interest from fans.
I mean, I'm less surprised than you might be, considering, well, I, I, I would call it an untapped market, because,
Yeah.
as you know, like, how many games are there like this? I mean, you've got certainly your Grand Theft Autos and all sorts of open world crime based games, but those are more about, at the end of the day, like, shooting and rampages. It's not, you know,
Yeah,
there's
it seems it's okay to kill people in games, and we got used to it to some extent. But drugs is a completely different matter. And the reaction we have from platform holders, for example, is shows us that this is really something which they don't want to deal with, basically.
right. I think we talked about this last time. You know, maybe not so much the hypocrisy of console makers, but yeah, there are certainly some subject matters that make them more uncomfortable than others, and you know that how relates to certain countries and so on and so forth. I mean, but I suppose that's the nice thing about the PC platform. You don't have to deal with that sort of um, oversight. Though, with that in mind, did Valve have any problems with Drug Dealer Simulator?
No, not at all. They don't care basically, which is nice because this is the only platform so far the game can be the game is available. So we are quite happy that Steam didn't mind at all.
That is good to hear. You know, especially since you know there are areas where they really do care about the content, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. You know something about this,
Yeah, we'll get to that with one of the other games, but you know, I was legitimately not sure how Valve took the something like Drug Dealer Simulator, but it's actually good to hear that they're cool with the game, so to speak. Anyway, getting back to the game itself, so uh, outside of you know improving your living situation and all that, is there a specific goal to the game? Is there a storyline? Are you a character?
Yeah. There's very limited storyline, and this is another thing we want to really improve with the game because the game lacks a kind of closure. So you are dealing the drugs, and when you achieve some level of of skill, you are just dealing more and more, and there is no clear end. And we would like to address this in one of the upcoming updates. We want this to close to some extent because we when the game was designed, the whole progress in the game, you as a player, you are the progress you are making. We originally thought people will get bored with the game, as with many games. But it seems that the drug dealer simulator players are really eager to play the game for hours. We have people who reach the top of the character progression and they can spend like tens of hours playing the game. So we decided, okay, uh, we owe them some kind of closure. So we should at least propose something. It is not done yet, but it will be a part of the upcoming update. That's our plan and that's our commitment.
Okay. Can you talk about the closure, or is that something that's still under wraps?
Yeah, it's still working on, so I don't want to spoil anything, and I'm not sure what will be the final version, but we are working on it. So we want this game to be finished and have some kind of definite ending, because we want those players who spend tens of hours playing the game to move to other games and enjoy other kinds of entertainment. We are very glad that they like the drug dealer simulator. It's really very satisfying for us to see that people like this crazy idea, and with this execution, which is well, as usually when you finish the game, you are not happy with the result. This is normal as let's say as all artistics endeavors. You are not happy with the final results. You are simply abandoning your work, or the work is more often the work is taken from you. just to be released. So we weren't happy, but the reaction was really great. So we now understand that we simply offered something people wanted, and this is great, really.
Indeed.
But we understand that there are some drawbacks in the game still, and we would like to fix them and make this game even better.
Well, along those lines, so you mentioned that there's going to be ending content in this upcoming update. What else is there planned in this patch?
I don't know exactly because I'm not following the development too closely. But because we as a publisher we have to work with the developer. We have to understand that sometimes developer wants to finish the work on the game. Simply as that. So we are not pushing too much because they would like to start. Actually, they started working on another game, not yet announced, but we don't want to force them to do much. So this is their discretion. They know what needs to be done, and we know that they will do this that in the best way possible. But I'm not following closely the development of the Drug Dealer Simulator at this moment. We have a producer assigned to it, and she probably knows better than me. I know that definitely we want to finish the game, to finish the development, to move to other games as well, maybe to sequel.
Well, indeed. I suppose addressing a potential sequel, what would you like to see in a potential Drug Dealer Simulator 2?
Usually, the sequel needs to be bigger, better, and stronger, or something like that. So it will be probably slightly bigger game, but again, we know our limitations, so we know we won't move, into the GTA area. We won't create a huge open world and stuff like this, but we want to give probably more options, maybe tell some deeper story with that. So yeah, the mechanics will be probably very similar. So you will be dealing drugs at the very low street level. Maybe build a small gang or something. But we want to be close to the roads, and we will analyze a lot of feedback we got from our fans. So it will be really improved version, let's say, slightly bigger, improved with maybe new mechanics. I'm not sure because it's a matter of future work. We are just discussing it. It's nothing is sure at this moment.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I'm not sure if this is something that's in the conversation yet, but have you considered like re-adding the combat to the sequel, or is that just something that is not coming back in this, for lack of a better term, series?
We need to be convinced that it will add to the game because just adding shooting move the game shooting because that's the best combat for the drug dealer. I think adding shooting is moving the game from the basically trading game or into the shooter, and this is the whole new bag of problems, and we are not sure it will really add to the game, or we can be very it can be very artificial that you can shoot someone, but well, can you, because when I discuss this issue, my question is, can I shoot everybody on the street or anyone? If can, what will be the outcome? Because you in the GTA there is those stars, police after you, and you can run, you can hide, you can repaint your car. You have a lot of options to to do when you start misbehave, basically. But in our game, where everything is so limited, the city is limited, your options are limited. Well, either you will be killed immediately by someone, by other dealers, or maybe by the police, or nobody will care about you shooting others, which will look simply stupid. so, so
You have to be careful not to overly inflate the scope of the game.
yeah. So it looks fine to add shooting, because it's always fun to shoot something or someone in the game, obviously. But if you start thinking about the consequences from the gameplay point of view, suddenly there's a lot of problems with that, which are not easily solved. So sometimes it's much easier to decide, okay, we are not shooting. We are just dealing drugs and trying to live on the street, which is difficult, and
Yeah,
not become
there,
a gang soldier and kill everybody on sight.
right. Though there is perhaps a medium between the two. Um, it's like, all of the proposed violence here has been with guns, but have other weapons, less dangerous weapons, instead of a gun, say a pool cue or a baseball bat, something
Yeah,
that would,
maybe maybe we can fight, like fist fight or something like
yeah,
that. That
some,
would make sense, because we don't want to leave, dead bodies on the street, because it's always complicated in any game. It because either those bodies are simply ignored by the world around the player, which is stupid, or there is some kind of reaction, and usually this reaction is quite complex. So yeah, we will consider it. It's not if we find that we can do this in a way that will work for the gameplay and be, mm, mm, acceptable by the players in terms of the world we create and the rules of the world we create, then we will probably do this.
yeah. I suppose for other things for a sequel, has consideration to the actual drug roster been considered? Like, I'm assuming that the drugs here are of the wholly illegal variety, but have I suppose this is a kind of a country thing, like getting into opioids and prescription medication is what is that a consideration for the sequel?
Yeah, that can be the option. We can because we should expand the number of possible drugs you can deal, obviously. But again, I don't know at this stage. We are thinking about mostly in terms of uh, making setting more interesting and maybe slightly bigger, and then the story and and those details about the specific drugs is something we will probably think much further in the future. Uh,
Fair enough.
so
Fair enough. Anyway, I suppose we should switch tracks here because we do only have about a half an hour here, and we do have at least two other games to cover. So sticking with simulators, but shifting wildly within the genre, we've got Gas Station Simulator, which is forthcoming, but has a prologue release on Steam, if I'm remembering correctly.
yes, and again, it was quite surprising that people liked it, because I am not a fan of simulators, frankly speaking. But we understand, as I said before, that this is a kind of huge niche. There is a lot of people who are interested in playing very strange simulator games. So the game is developed by the Dragon Entertainment, which is a separate company. We have a small stake in it, and we are publishing their game. But it was their idea. They said, "Okay, we would like to explore this area of simulators, because we think that that this is a good move, and they proposed to this gas station simulator. We weren't sure about the whole concept. Especially, I wasn't sure because I don't see much I don't have much interest in simulators, so I don't understand them clearly. But they said, okay, wait, see how it goes, and they started to send us builds of the game, prototypes, and we saw that okay, this is pretty chilling game that you are going around your gas station, fixing it, cleaning, making it usable, and then interacting with the gas station customers. And they started working on the visuals, and the game quickly became much more interesting visually, and there's a lot of work to do. So at some point we decided this is going pretty well. It's not my cup of tea personally, but I can see people playing it, which would like to do something which doesn't require a lot of skill, which is really relaxing. So when they propose, okay, let's release the prologue and see how the audience reacts to the game, and we release it, and the reaction was quite nice. People liked the game. The if I remember, the scores are pretty high. So there's definitely an audience for this kind of game, and well, it's looking good for them, especially for the developer, because they needed a good title, and it seems that it will be quite nice title.
Well, I mean, that's good to hear. And what can you do in the prologue version that's been released? Like, how much of the game is in that slice?
It's I believe, because I haven't played, frankly speaking, it's about half an hour. We would Our approach to prologue is that you should get around half an hour to an hour of gameplay. The best approach is when this prologue is really different from the game. So we did with the Last from Beyond, because the Last from Beyond, the prologue, and the Last from Beyond Scarlet were completely different parts of the game, taking place in the same basically world, but they tell different stories. So this is something special, and players really appreciated that. It's not just the demo named Prologue. It's a separate, almost standalone part of the game. So we tried to offer something in this Prologue. This is not just a simple demo. I'm not sure what's the situation with the gas station, because I didn't play it. But I believe it's the early part of the game. So you start on the gas station and start to try to clean the station, repair what needs to repair, and because you are starting with the some derelict station, and you have to basically bring it to life.
Okay.
And this is a free prologue, so you can download and play and enjoy or not.
True enough. Do you know if the whole gas station simulator is just making is pure maintenance, or is there going to be management? Like, do you have to keep track of the finances of the gas station?
Yeah, you have to manage the station. You have to keep your station clean. You have to repair your station, and make it's your business, basically, the station. So you are starting with something really in disrepair, and you have to turn it into successful business.
Yeah.
So the game is mixing quite a lot of elements. Also, those games are a kind of mid-core games, so they are targeting people which are not very into stats, numbers, character progression. They tend to be a bit simpler, which I like. Personally, I'm moving from hardcore to mid-core player recently because I'm getting old. and I prefer the games that are easy to play, really, and are relaxing. So I'm becoming to understand this whole simulator genre, with the exception of dealer simulator, which is pretty hardcore game anyway.
Hmm. And do you know what the current state of the full game is at this point?
No, I believe there's no release date, so yet. The I think we got a lot of feedback after the prologue, so probably the developer is working now on improving the full game based on the feedback they received to make the game even better. But as far as I know, we don't know the release date because we are trying not to push the developers too much in terms of release dates, especially because we are not founding the development. The game is self-founded because it's a separate public company. They have their own money. We are publishing the game because we have a lot of publishing experience and marketing department, so it's much easier for them to publish through us. But they are controlling the development, so we are not pushing them. If they think that they need if the game needs more work and some improvements, we are okay with that because we want this game to be the best game possible. So if it takes time, we got our lesson from the Cyberpunk 2077. So nowadays, everyone knows that if you think that you need to spend more time on your game, do it. Simply as that. Don't release too early.
Right. I mean, that in and of itself is an art because it happens less, but there are games that have spent too long in development. It's
Yes.
like you don't want to be, on the other hand, you don't want to be, say, Duke Nukem Forever.
Yeah, but there is a lot of space between releasing too early and Duke Nukem Forever. I don't know, like 6 years or something. But I believe the game. Again, don't quote me on that. I believe the game will be released this year, so it's not. They are not delaying it unnecessarily. They are working on the game to make it
right.
good.
I mean, I suppose that gets to a more general question because it's been a pandemic year and some change. Has that affected any of your business, any of the development as far as you know?
Not much, because we work with the external teams. So most of the time we have very small number of people working in our office directly. So most of those teams are already working from home for various reasons. Especially if you want to keep your budget low, you have to find a smart ways of doing it. And one of those ways is simply outsource a lot of work and allow people to work from home in order to save on office costs and stuff like this. So of course it complicated some things, but mostly business related, like financials and discussions with investors and stuff like this. So the development was going as it was before. We are quite fortunate in these bad times, basically. But on the other hand, when I take a look at the cyberpunk again, I think the pandemic had a strong impact on their operation, because this is a huge 1,000 people large studio, and I don't imagine making the game of such complexity from home, basically. So
I mean, like I don't think that was made remotely. Like, but
yeah, it was
don't.
made remotely. They pretty quickly let people work from home.
I mean,
So last year, the whole studio worked from home. So yeah, they said, oh, there's no impact on the development, but they said a lot of things before the release which weren't true. So I believe this also wasn't true. It had a very strong impact on them because I know this company. If this is a digression, but I know the company, and they are quite chaotic in terms of organization, and I believe this only make it even worse. So, and we've seen the results.
Yes, we have. And yeah, like the results were not pretty. But getting back to the games that you guys put out, the third game here is quite different from anything else we've talked about here because first of all, it's not a simulation game of any sort. It is a erotic horror game.
Yeah.
If I'm calculating that right.
Yeah, it's a pretty good description. It's Last from Beyond. Last from Beyond is a kind of sequel to the Last from Darkness. The Last from Darkness was the first game from this very young team. They proposed us. It was like 2 years ago or something. They proposed us to create a game which will mix a horror with a bit of erotica, not porn, but erotica. Some naked people doing stuff what usually done by naked people. And this is really explained in the story in the game. So this is not just a random erotic scenes interwoven with some gore. It makes sense. And it was their debut title, so it wasn't not bad, but it wasn't very good really. But the game sold very well because it was something original and unique. It was a mix of the Lovecraftian horror with some kind of erotica plus some Giger and Beksinski stuff, So very unusual visual side with quite, I hope, interesting story because, it's not my cup of tea again. But I talked with the developers and they really believed what they did. It's not just let's add some naked people for fun and see what happens. No, it is well explained. And directions from the players was okay. We accept that this is a quite unusual mix of themes, and nobody did that before. So after the first game, we decided, okay, this is a pretty good debut game. Let's make another game. Not technically a sequel, but the game built on the same principles and using similar subjects. So this is how Last from Beyond started to be being developed. And we offered them much bigger budget because they proved themselves. They proved that they are quite capable team, and they started working on the game to make it bigger, more interesting, with more gore and more erotica. And it worked quite well. They decided at some point to release the prologue, the true prologue, which is a separate story, which got some pretty good scores from the players, and a lot of players played it and really liked the whole concept. We even followed with another prologue called Scarlet, which was another separate story in the same setting. And finally, we released the game. And the game, sold quite well. It's selling quite well. But it was, as we understood, the game became quickly problematic because of the erotic content. The game got adult-only rating from Steam, or was marked by the Steam as adult-only because there's no ratings on Steam. Which means the game is quite limited in release and visibility. The game is not available in China. It's not available in Germany. The game is, in order to see the game, you have to be logged in to the Steam. Otherwise, the game is not existent. For that reason, the game also is not promoted as it would without this rating. But despite that, we managed to generate a lot of interest. We managed to get a lot of wish list. The game at the release had over 2,000 wish list interest. So it's a lot. People really like the concept, and they played game. They liked the game. The game is still selling quite well, but due to we understood that in order to get the wider release, we need to work on, let's say, censored version. We call it M edition, mature, not adult only. And this version is in the works, and we hope to release this version on other platforms, because obviously adult only game is not possible to release on consoles, for example. Again, so we are working on because there is no way to censor Drug Dealer Simulator in order to make it more accessible for the console players. It's a no-go at this point, but we can censor the erotic parts of the game to some extent to keep the spirit of the game, but without the explicit sexual content. And we plan to release the game on console platforms, and we obviously we will release the game, this mature version, on Steam as well, and it will be probably free to the owners of the unrated or adult only version.
Okay.
So that.
And are you working with the console makers to ensure that this new version?
Yeah, exactly. We are very careful. So we are in contact with them. We propose the list of changes we plan to introduce. Most of them are already have been done. So because we were committed to release this M edition on the Steam as well, because we want to reach the Chinese audience, because they like the Last from Darkness, the previous game, very much. So there's something very interesting for the Chinese players. I don't know what is, or is it the horror or the mix of horror and erotica? I don't know. And we would like to reach them with this sequel, because the sequel is much better than the first game. But currently the game is completely blocked in China, on Steam, obviously, because there's no way the game will be published in China through the official channels, because this is a horror game which is not very welcome in China. Right. But the Chinese players have access to Steam, but not to adult only games. So the game is blocked for them, and we would like them to play the M edition and enjoy it, and we would like to have the game available on the consoles as well. So we are in contact with Steam to make sure that the M-rated version will be M-rated, not adult only. We are in contact with the console manufacturers as well about that.
In regards to the consoles, are you looking to launch on all of the major platforms, or say like just the PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X?
Definitely PlayStation and Xbox, maybe even older generation. We are not sure about the Switch, because the game is maybe too heavy for Switch. We will see, because we would like to use some external studio to make the port. So so far they think, okay, this is because this is a Unity game. Unity games are not very well optimized by design, and this may be difficult. but definitely we would like to see the game on PlayStation, probably PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Okay. Now, in regards to the larger Lust franchise, I guess, are there any plans for a third game?
Yeah, we are discussing it, obviously, because it seems there is a huge audience for this kind of the game, and that the developer seems to understand what the audience need. So yeah, we are discussing the third part or third game in the series. This is very early, so we are discussing concepts so far. So there's no decision yet, because first of all we need to finish the M edition before we start working on the third game. But we are already discussing some concepts. It's too early to reveal anything, because it's just a bunch of ideas so far, and discussion with the developer about that, what technology we should use for the sequel, and all other ideas, or how explicit the third game should be. Because on one hand, it's quite nice to allow developer to be really to do what they want in terms of artistic, let's say, freedom. But they see that the game is limited in reach. They would like to see more people playing their game, obviously. And when the game is blocked in many countries, maybe it's a good idea to rethink some approach and try to achieve what they want to achieve, and also, pass the sensors, because that's the idea.
Well, in regards to this M-rated version, is it just mere censoring, or are they looking to, I don't know, improve, add, change things? Since this is going to be a new version of this game.
No, it is mostly censored version. There will be probably some small improvements based on the feedback we got from the players, but the game will be as the original, the unrated version, in terms of what's in the game, and how it plays.
Right. And do you expect the M-rated version to be out this year?
Yeah. We believe, because it's almost done in terms of changes we plan to make it milder. It's almost finished. We still wait for the confirmation from the platform holders if this is enough to get them rating. Maybe we will try to get some kind of official age rating for the game, just to make sure that everything is tip top and okay. So the PC version will be released as soon as well we get this confirmation that everything is okay, and then we'll port it to consoles, which will take some time. We don't know yet, because we are talking with the porting partners at this moment. So the PC version should be out in, I don't know, 4 weeks or something. Again, don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. This is just a guess. But we are close.
Fair enough assessment as any, I suppose. Anyway, so we do have some time here. So I suppose a question I would ask is, what are you personally working on in terms of development at Pixel Pro?
I'm currently working on my own game called Total Alarm, which is a kind of narrative resource management games about a communism space. That's the shortest explanation. There is this utopian communist society in space, very similar to the Soviet communism, basically. And you are a part of it. You are just a technician working on repairing the space station because it's taking place in space, as I said. So you are repairing the space station, and during your everyday duties, you discover a huge conspiracy. And well, then knowing that, you try to avoid the huge disasters. This is all I can say in terms of story, without spoiling too much. So the game is about visiting station, fixing stuff, trading with other people, and simply observing the life of the people in such society. This is based to some extent on my experience because I'm old enough to remember, the real socialism in Poland and how really sad and bad it was. So this is a kind of reflection on that. And I think it will be quite interesting narrative game with some elements of management. Rather mid-core game again because I'm becoming a mid-core player, so it won't be very 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 difficult, but we'll see. This is what I personally do because I am a designer and a programmer for this project, and I'm working with the artist at this point with two artists working on the artistic part of the game. But we in Pixel Crow we are also co-producing two additional titles. One is Fire Commander, which is a tactical firefighting game. Isometric view, a bunch of firefightings, and you are putting out the fires. That's a very quick explanation. And also with another team, we are co-producing a game with the working title Food Truck Empire, which haven't been announced, but the information was leaked by the auditor anyway, so we can talk about this, which is about building your food truck empire. So it's a kind of tycoon game where you start with a simple food truck and you are building this into food truck empire.
And is this just managing food trucks, or are you actually cooking the
No,
food?
it's a magic food truck. So you have this isometric view on the city, and you are just moving food trucks from various places in the city in order to get better sales, to satisfy specific groups of customers. You are reacting to different events during the day or night. So you are basically managing, but you are not making stuff in the food truck. The food trucks are autonomous and they do what they do. They serve people with food.
Okay. And are there any other games you wish at this point?
No, we have some games in pre-production. We are discussing some ideas, but at this point, this is all we can manage because Pixel Crow is a very small company. It's just a couple of people and those external teams we work together. But we have a lot of ideas for the games, but we need more resources. We need to observe the market in order to select the best ideas from those we have. And then we'll probably start working on more titles in the future.
Okay. Right. So I think that's about all of my questions at this point. I'll see if my colleagues have anything additional for you.
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think you covered everything I was wondering, and also I have to get going momentarily. So.
Right. Well, yeah, it's almost 12, so we're about done here. So Maciej, I wanted to thank you for taking time out of your schedule and being with us here once more. It was another lovely conversation, and hopefully we'll have you back on the program when you've got some new games to talk about.
Sure. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be again on your podcast.
No
and
problem.
if you need me, I'm always for you.
Okay. Right. So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. As always, be sure to join us for the Sunday reviews. Until then, I shall wish you good gaming.